I hope you all are doing well in this situation. Now let's talk about today's lesson, adjectives and adverbs. Adjectives are words that describe nouns. So for example, the noun flower is described by the word red. So the word red is an adjective. In the second example, the word cat, the noun cat, is described by the word cute. So this is a cute cat. And the word cute is an adjective. Now let's look at some more examples. Let's look at the forms, how an adjective is used in the singular and plural forms. An open window is plural, open windows. We lose an because it indicates one. And we do not change the adjective and we make the noun plural. We simply add s to the end of the word. The gold watch. The gold watches. We don't change the article in this one because the can be used with both singular and plural. Gold is the adjective and we don't change it even if it is a singular or a plural noun. The gold watch, the gold watches. And when it becomes plural, we have added es to the end of the word. Watch. A bad tooth. What is the plural of tooth? Datak, dat, teeth. Foot, plural, feet. A little child. The plural of child is children. We always use a to indicate one, singular. But when we go to the plural one, we always omit, we remove a. And then we don't change the adjective and then we only make it, make the noun plural. The blue pen, the blue pens. Comparative adjectives. Comparative adjectives are used when we are comparing two or more things. So for example, do you know compare means සංසන්දනය කරනවා. සංසන්දනය කරන්න පාවිච්චි කරන adjectives වලට අපි කියන්නේ comparative adjectives කියලා. We make comparative adjectives by adding er to the adjective. We take a normal adjective and then we add er to the end of the word and then we get the comparative adjective. This is not always the case, but most of the time this is how it's done. And the comparative adjectives are always used with the word than after that. A peasant is poorer than a king. Peasant is poorer than a king. We take the adjective poor and duppat. And we add er to the end of the word and it becomes poorer. That is the comparative adjective. And then we use it with than and compare two things and make a meaningful sentence. The man is older than boy. Now let's look at some adjectives and their comparative form. I want you guys to notice the spelling differences. Fat becomes fatter, and as you can see, we have not only added er to the end of the word, we have also added an additional t. Same in hot. When it becomes the comparative form, it becomes hotter with extra t. Pretty. There's a y at the end of the word pretty. We remove the y and then we add ier. Instead of just adding er to the y, we remove the y and then add I and add er. Then becomes prettier. Same in dirty and in happy as well. Clean, cleaner is just the simple form. We only add er to the end. Now I want you guys to look at superlative adjectives. Let's focus on the picture. You can see there are giraffes, 3 giraffes. And as you all know, a giraffe is a pretty tall animal. You know, even the smallest giraffe is probably taller than us. So a giraffe is tall. So you can see the first giraffe, even though it seems little, is still tall. The second one is obviously tall. And the third one is the tallest of all because it is the tallest one out of the 3. එයා තමයි උස්සම එක්කෙනා. මෙයා උස්සයි පළවෙනි එක්කෙනාට වඩා දෙවෙනි එක්කෙනා උස්සයි. දෙවෙනි එක්කෙනාට වඩා තුන්වෙනි එක්කෙනා උස්සයි. තුන්වෙනි එක්කෙනා තමයි උස්සම එක්කෙනා. So when we are talking about the third giraffe, we use the superlative adjective, that is tallest, because it is taller than both of the other things that the other giraffes that we are considering. There are two ways that we can state that. The third giraffe is the tallest of the three. Or we can say the third is the tallest of the three giraffes. And moving on, here are some of the mostly used adjectives and the comparative and superlative forms. So you can see that the adjectives are old, small, thin, big, dirty, happy, good and bad. Let's go one by one. The comparative form of old is older, superlative form is oldest. We don't make any changes to the spellings. We simply add ER when making the comparative one. And when we are making the superlative form, we add EST to the end of the word without making any changes. Same in small. But when it comes to thin, we add an extra N at the end and then we add ER. Same here. This is the same way that we used when getting the comparative and superlative forms of the adjective big. Dirty, it has an Y at the end. We remove Y and then we add I instead and then we add ER or EST. Same in happy. Now let's look at these two adjectives, good and bad. As you can clearly see, the comparative and superlative forms of the adjectives good and bad does not look anything like the original word. So the comparative word of good is better and the superlative form is best. For example, you can say, I am a good student. If you are a better student than your friend, you can say that I am a better student than my friend. And if you are the best student in the class, you can say, I am the best student in the class. Also, the other side, bad, worst, and worst. If you are a bad kid, then you can say that I'm a bad person, that I'm a bad student. If you are even worse than your friend, you can say that I'm worse than my friend. And if you are the worst student in the class, you can say that I am the worst student in the class. Just kidding, I know you all are very good and nice. Now let's look at this example. Let's look at the picture first. You can see that there are 3 boys carrying 3 bags. And you can clearly see that there are differences in each of these bags. The color is the same, but with the size. So as you can see, when it becomes bigger in size, it becomes heavier. So for example, you can see that the first boy is holding a bag and it seems somewhat heavy. He's carrying it with both of his hands and he looks a bit torn. So obviously the bag he's carrying in the first bag that he's carrying is heavy. Let's look at the second bag. The boy it's too heavy for him to carry on his hands. So he's dragging it on the floor, which means clearly it's heavier than the first bag. Now let's look at the third bag. It looks huge and he's dragging it with both of his hands, and we can clearly see that he is giving his utmost strength to drag this heavy bag, very heavy bag. So we can clearly see that the first bag is heavy, and we can clearly say that the second bag is heavier than the first bag, and we can see that the third bag is the heaviest one of them all. And always remember, I want you guys to memorize this as much as you can. Like, always remember that we put the in front of the superlative adjective always. Okay, moving on. Here are 2 more adjectives that we use very commonly. Much and many. What's the difference of much and many? So as it says here, much is used with singular noun. Singular nouns. Also, it is used with uncountable nouns. What are uncountable nouns? I'm sure you have learned it, but just to jog your memory, I'll tell it in brief. So, uncountable nouns are nouns that we cannot count. We cannot count them. So, for example, water. Can we count water? 1 water, 2 water? No, we can't. We can use other methods to count water, and also like milk. We cannot count milk. So those are some of the uncountable nouns that we can commonly see. We can use other methods to count, of course. We can use other methods to count. So like a cup of milk, a glass of water, or a bottle of water. But we cannot count 1 water, 2 water, 1 milk, 2 milk. We cannot do that. So they are uncountable nouns. So much is always used with uncountable nouns. And many is always associated with plural nouns. So if it's a plural noun, we use many. And you can clearly see the comparative and superlative forms of much and many are the same. More and most. Much and many are often used in negative sentences and in questions. How much was it? You can see. How many are here? In questions. We ask for the count in question when we use much or many. And when it is used in sentences, we can see that it gives a negative meaning. So for example, the old woman hasn't got many teeth in her mouth. Hasn't got many teeth in her mouth. There isn't much water in this river in dry season. Really කාලෙදී මේ ගඟේ එච්චර වතුර නැහැ. I hope you understood. Some adjectives are long words. To make comparative and superlative forms of those adjectives, we use more and most. So, for example, beautiful, dangerous, difficult, careless, useful. These are long words. Beautiful means, as you most probably know, lasana. Dangerous, bayanaka. Difficult, amaru. Careless, parisamak nati. Kisam salakillak nati. Useful, prayojanamat. And its comparative and superlative forms are made simply by adding more and more to the in front of the adjective. We do not change the spellings of the adjective when we are making the comparative or superlative form in these words. We simply add more when making comparative adjective, and we simply add most when we are making the superlative adjective. So when it comes to dangerous, we can consider three criminals. So for first criminal, we can think that he's a liar, that he's fraud. And the second one is a thief. And the third one is a murderer. We can see that the first criminal is simply a liar. I'm sorry. According to the example, let's consider as the first criminal being a thief. So a thief is more dangerous than a liar, than a fraud. A thief is more dangerous. And what about a murderer? A murderer. He is the most dangerous of them all. Okay, now let's go to the second part of today's lesson, the adverb. Adverbs are used to describe actions, verbs. Verb කියලා කියන්නේ ක්‍රියාපදයක්. ඒතකොට ක්‍රියාපදයක් විස්තර කරන්න පාවිච්චි කරන වචන වලට තමයි අපි කියන්නේ adverbs කියලා. Adverbs describe an action. So you can see in the picture, there's an old man and he's walking with his cane. යාගේ සැරයටත් එක්ක තමයි ඇවිදින්නේ. එතකොට වයස නිසා යාලට ඉක්මනට ඇවිදින්න බෑ කියලා අපි දන්නවා. Now let's look at these three sentences. The first one simply states the verb that he's doing, what he's doing. The old man is walking up the hill. වයසක මිනිස්සයා කන්දක් උඩට ඇවිදන් යනවා. The old man is walking slowly up the hill. වයසක මිනිස්සයා හිමීට ඇවිදගෙන යනවා කන්ද උඩට. The old man is walking very slowly up the hill because he's old and it is a hill. You know, it is hard to climb a hill than to walk on a flat road. It requires more strength. So since he is an old man, he is walking very slowly up the hill. Now let's look at many of the variations of adverbs. Many adverbs are made by simply adding ly to the end of adjectives. So for example, slow, we add ly to the slow is an adjective. And then we add ly to the end of the word slow, and then becomes slowly, which means the adverb is simply made by adding ly to the adjective. Let's look at another method. Many adjectives and adverbs are the same word. As you can clearly see, hard. The adjective is also hard and the adverb is also hard. It is the same word. There are no spelling differences. It's the same word. Some adjectives and adverbs are different words. Some adjectives and adverbs are completely different words. As you can see, the adjective is good. The adverb of the same, giving the same meaning, is well. Adverbs also answer questions beginning with when and where. Adverb එකකින් අපිට උත්තරයක් හම්බ වෙනවා when and where වලින් පටන් ගන්න ප්‍රශ්න වලට. when කියලා අපි අහන්නේ මොකද්ද? අපි when කියලා ප්‍රශ්නයක් අහනවා නම් අපි අහන්නේ time එකක් ගැන. මොනවා හරි දෙයක් සිද්ධ වෙච්ච time එකක් ගැන තමයි අපි අහන්නේ. වෙලාවක් ගැන තමයි අහන්නේ. where කියලා ප්‍රශ්නයක් අහනවා නම් අපි අහන්නේ එතන සිද්ධ වෙච්ච තැන ගැන. කොතනද සිද්ධ වුනේ කියන එක. හරිද? එතකොට adverbs also so like I said, they answer questions beginning with when and where. So for example, when does Jack go to bed? Jack here the answer is Jack goes to bed early. That is the full answer. If we give the small answer, short answer, it's simply early. And like we mentioned, early is an adverb. So this adverb early answers the question that begins with when. Where shall I sit? The question is beginning with where. Please sit here. The verb is sit. And the word describing the verb is here. So here is an adverb in this context. Now let's look at adverbs of manner. These adverbs describe the manner or the nature of the action, so they are called as adverbs of manner. Now when we say that the manner or the nature of the action, what does it mean? It means how the action happened. කොහොමද මොන හරි දෙයක් සිද්ධ වුනේ? දැන් ඔයාලට කියන්න පුළුවන් නිකම්ම ඔයාගේ නංගි ලස්සන නටනවා. හරිද? ඔයාගේ නංගි නටනවා කියලා කියන්න පුළුවන්. ඔයා එයාගේ action එක කියනවා විතරයි. You are only stating the action that she is doing. Your sister dances. But your sister is very talented and she dances beautifully. එයා කොහොමද නටන්නේ? How is she dancing? She is dancing beautifully. So that is an adverb of manner then. It describes the manner, the nature of the action. Now these are some of the very common adverbs of manner that we can use, and you can see that they are derived from the adjectives. Beautiful, careful, easy, brave, foolish, slow, noisy. Beautiful කියනවා දන්නවා ලස්සන. Careful කියලා කියන්නේ පරිස්සමට. Easy, lazy. Brave, නිර්භීත. Foolish, මෝඩයි. Slow, හිමීට. Noisy, හරිම සද්දෙන්. ගොඩක් සද්දෙන්. The adverb adding ly to the adjective, beautifully, carefully, easily, bravely, foolishly, slowly, and noisily. The comparative adjectives simply by adding, this is the adverb. These are the adverbs. In this column, you can see the adverbs. And you can see that they are long words. So the comparative adverb is made by simply adding more to the front. More beautifully, more carefully, more easily, more bravely, more foolishly, so on. And the superlative adverb, like I mentioned before, we simply add most. Most beautifully, most carefully, most easily, most bravely, most foolishly, most slowly, and most noisily. Now let's look at another type of adverb, adverbs of time. Now these adverbs describe the time of the verb. So for example, you can see early. So the first example, you can see that it directly explains the verb by saying like when it happened. Early. You can say, so for example, I come to school early. Mama udeta mama iskole එනවා ටිකක් උදේ. ඒතර මගේ යාළුවා මටත් කලින් ඉස්කෝලේ එනවා. My friend comes to school earlier than me. And our teacher comes to school the earliest out of us three. අපි තුන්දෙනාගේ අපේ teacher තමයි උදෙන්ම ඉස්කෝලේට එන්නේ. Our teacher comes to school earliest. Some adverbs of time are always, never, often, and sometimes. Always, never, often, and sometimes. I'm sure you have seen them everywhere. Often, always, never, often, and sometimes. Let me explain what they are. Each of these words describe a certain time period. මේ හැම වචනයකම තේරුම එන්නේ කාලයත් එක්ක සම්බන්ධ වෙලා. It is related to time. Always කියලා කියන්නේ හැමතිස්සෙම කොයි වෙලෙත් හැම වෙලාවෙම. Never කවදාවත් වෙන දෙයක් නෙමෙයි. Often කියලා කියන්නේ something that happens frequently. නිතර සිද්ධ වෙන දෙයක්. Sometimes කියලා කියන්නේ සමහර විට. සමහර ලාට සිද්ධ වෙන දේවල්. ඒකට sometimes කියලා පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ සමහර ලාට සිද්ධ වෙන දේවල්. These are usually used before a one word verb. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් පාවිච්චි වෙන්නේ one word verb එකකට ඉස්සරහින්. For example, Pavani always goes to school by bus. Goes කියලා කියන්නේ verb එක. ඒක one word verb එක. ඒකට ඉස්සරහින් පාවිච්චි වෙනවා adverb එක always. Pavani always goes to school by bus. Pavani හැමතිස්සෙම ඉස්කෝලේ යන්නේ බස් එකේ. If the verb is two words, we put these before the second word. Verb එක හැදිලා තියෙන වචන දෙකකින් නම් අපි දානවා මේක අපේ මේ adverbs of times before the second word. So for example, you must never lie. Verbs දෙකක් තියෙනවා. You is the noun. Verbs දෙකක් තියෙනවා. Must and lie. Must lie කියන verb එක තනි verb එකක්. තනි verb එකක් විදිහට තමයි එතන හැසිරෙන්නේ. Since it is made up of two words, the verb is made up of two words, we put the adverb of time before the second word. You must never lie. These adverbs are usually used after the verbs am, is, are, was, and were. So usually be verbs. For example, it is sometimes cold in the evening. සමහර වෙලාවට හැන්දෑවට සීතල. ඒ වගේ, so you can see after, used after the verbs am, is, are, was, and were. Be verbs තියෙනවා නම් am, is, are, was, and were තියෙනවා නම් ඒකට පස්සේ තමයි මේ adverbs පාවිච්චි වෙන්න ඕන. You can see italics වලින් තියෙන්නේ it is sometimes cold in the evening. Sometimes cold in the evening. සමහර වෙලාවට හැන්දෑවට සීතලයි අපිට. Okay, so thank you all for listening for today's lesson, and I hope you learned a lot from it, and that's what we want. I wish you the best of luck with your education and with your future. Thank you.